India's hunt for a hardline Sikh separatist continues. Amritpal Singh remains at large as pro-Khalistan protests spread to the UK, the US, and Canada. Who is Amritpal Singh, and why are calls for an independent Sikh state resonating now? I'm Andrea Sankian. Today's newsmaker is Khalistan. Supporters of the Sikh secessionist movement have been calling for an independent homeland to be carved out of the Punjab in both India and Pakistan. Demands for the creation of Khalistan aren't new, but after authorities cracked down severely on separatists more than 30 years ago, many thought the movement had mostly died out. Well, they've learned that's not the case. Pro-Khalistan groups protested outside the Indian High Commission in London last week. They detached the building's Indian flag to put up a Khalistan banner instead, outraging Indian authorities. In Washington, Khalistan supporters gathered at the Indian embassy, as well as outside the San Francisco consulate where windows were smashed. And India has summoned the Canadian High Commissioner over the latest attack by Sikh separatists on Indian diplomatic missions in Canada.
At least in London and San Francisco, we have strongly taken up the matter of vandalization and attacks on our missions there, post there. And you would have also seen our statements that we have put out in this regard. Let me just say, we expect that host governments will take action to identify and prosecute all those involved, and also take necessary measures to prevent the recurrence of such incidents. We would hope host governments provide full and adequate protection to our missions as well as to the personnel working there.
Meanwhile, back in India, a massive manhunt is underway for a chief Sikh separatist. Amritpal Singh is a leading ideologue within Waris Punjab De. The search for Singh alone controversially prompted the Indian government to cut internet access to 27 million people for 4 days last week. They also ordered restrictions on movement, a stop to protests, and suspended Twitter accounts. Now, the renewed calls for an independent Sikh homeland have stoked fears of violence and revived painful memories of a bloody insurgency that killed thousands in the 1980s during Operation Blue Star. In India, Sikhs make up less than 2% of the country's population, around 20 million people. The state of Punjab is the only Indian state with a Sikh majority population. There's been some history of persecution and violence, including arbitrary detention and enforced disappearance, linked to the state. Now, the ongoing crisis highlights the rift between Sikhs and the Indian government. Last month, violence broke out in Punjab after hundreds of Singh's supporters stormed a police station demanding the release of a detained aide, Lovepreet Singh. The group, many carrying weapons, broke through barricades. Ultimately, the situation was diffused and the crowd left the scene after being assured that the aide would be released. Now the government accuses Amritpal Singh and his supporters of attempted murder, obstruction of law enforcement, and creating disharmony. Singh, who was relatively unknown just months ago, has become Punjab's most wanted criminal, and he's nowhere to be found. Just before he disappeared, though, he explained some of his views.
I'm, advocating needs for my community. I'm standing with my own people. There will be consequences, I know that. But what I can do? You want me to be silent, let my people die? I can't do that. No, I believe there is a government. It's not like, I'm not like, kind of saying that there is no law and I'm the law. It's nothing like, I'm not competing with the government. I believe there is a government, but I also expect them to behave like a government. Like, are they behaving like a government? Is there any justice to anybody? They promised to end this drug epidemic in a week or in 24 hours or in a month. How many? It's a year now, and it's got worse.
So that is the voice of one Sikh activist, but not all agree. And joining me now from New York is Puneet Sahani. He's also a Sikh activist and content coordinator for Sikhs for Enlightenment Values Association, or SEVA. Puneet, thanks so much for being with us. Both you and Amritpal Singh are described as Sikh activists advocating for Sikh rights, but you don't believe in what he says is something fundamental to the Sikh community, and that is an independent homeland. Why aren't you an advocate for Khalistan?
What kind of independence do you want? So like the Sikhs, for example, we are a democracy. And if you actually look at it, Sikhs have the most privileged position in the Indian constitution. So again, so if you look at, there are like four major religions, right? Islam, Christianity, Hindus, and, Sikhism. So in Hindus, basically the backward caste, they get reservation benefits, like if you are from the lower caste. And in like Christians and Muslims, because they are supposed to be non-Hindus, they get benefits of running their religious institutions and grants and running this. Sikhs gets both. Sikhs are like succeeding everything. And what do you mean by land? Like I can claim this is New York as mine. Like 40% of Punjab is Hindu. And if you look at the voting patterns in Punjab, so the party which asked for a Khalistan, they always lose their security deposit. Security deposit, to give you a perspective of Indian constitution in Indian elections, is if you get, so if you want to run an election, not everybody can run an election, right? So the way to do is you give up some amount of money, let's say like $1,000, and if you don't get even like 1/6 of the vote, then you forfeit that money. So when Khalistanis fight in elections, they lose security deposit. So Punjab is a Sikh majority state. The Sikhs enjoy a most privileged position in the Indian constitution. Sikhs are doing better than other communities. And who is he? He has not even won like a municipal block election. Who is
Fair
he to
enough.
represent the
Okay.
Sikhs?
So, I mean, you believe that he and his supporters actually do a disservice to the Sikh community?
Of course. What they are doing, like, for example, what kind of a Khalistan? So if you see, for example, he basically attacked a police station. The police is also Sikh. So you take and, they are taking weapons like this and they are attacking police. So this will be the law and order. Now, again, so you have to be very careful, Andrea. All these terrorist groups, for example, they use, a very special technique. So, for example, when they speak with you or the Western world, they use the language of democracy, freedom of right, freedom of speech, and something. And when they talk to their own constituency, they use a very different language. So, I'm guessing, you are from a German background. So I've translated and put it on my Twitter. Somebody has done it, and I've put it the video where he's speaking in Punjabi. In Punjabi, he's using exactly Hitlerian language for Hindus, which are like 40% of the state. He's saying they have no right on Punjab, like 40% of the people who are Hindus. And he's using the word that they are pest. He's using this word.
So I mean, would it be fair for you to actually describe Amritpal Singh and his supporters as Sikh supremacists?
Yeah, they are genocidal demagogues.
It's amazing, though, because right, and they of course accuse the Indian government right now of genocide, both in the 1980s and he's describing now that the government is perpetrating this drug genocide on the Sikh community. Do you think right now Amritpal Singh and his supporters are as bad as their counterparts from the 1980s and 90s that were effectively, taken down by the government?
Again, you see, for example, if you look at the data, it's just like very easy to say things. I'm not an activist. I'm just interested in facts. And whatever you say, like my idea is like, what evidence do you have? So, Andrea, you have to understand when the militancy happened in Punjab, it was one of the bloodiest militancy. To give you an idea, it was more than, the deaths were more than what was happening in, in Kashmir. And I give you an example. So in the last 2 years, an average, like, more than 500 people were dying a month. Not in 1 month, for 2 years, like that 1990 and 1991 period. That meant a Mumbai, like, terrorist attack was happening thrice a month. So 500 people were dying every month. Now, if you look at the data, so I'm not talking about, the police. Like if you look at the police, so 10% of all the deaths in that 22,000 are actually the police. And if you look at the police names, it seems like 80 to 90% are the Sikhs themselves.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the civilians died, I'm telling you about civilians died. 60% of the civilians that the terrorists killed, and the thing is, it's not like somebody says the Indian government killed them. Because when the terrorists would kill them, like there is a terrorist movement, they would take responsibility in the newspapers. So if you look at the data, 60% of the people that they killed were Sikhs themselves.
Okay.
And that's why when the terrorism ended, nobody who speaks for Khalistan basically wins an election.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, your position, and we just have a minute left, but your position has, according to you, led to very serious death threats. So, what has that meant to your life now, trying to defend what you think is the legitimate Sikh cause?
I'm just like, Sikh tells you about treat all humanity as one. So I'm just like, I treat like this. But, I tell you, Andrea, so the thing is, it's nothing. I got a lot, and, this is my duty to serve, and I'm doing it. But I'm just saying, these people all, if you look at the data, for example, also if you go to UK and US, all the people who were killed, no Khalistani were killed. They say, we are the victim and everything. They play the victim. But all people who were killed were people who spoke against Khalistan. If I can just take 30 seconds, you are going to have this guy from Dal Khalsa or something. So there was a guy whose name was Darshan Das in 1987 in UK. And he just said, Hindu-Sikh peace, and he was killed.
Mm.
And when the court ordered, like that thing, and they said this was a man of peace. He was just for his views. He was saying, I'm against Khalistan, and they killed him. And if you look to this, Dal Khalsa 84, if you go to their Twitter handle, the guy who was killed, they are celebrating that guy as a he has done some great service to his name is Rajinder Singh
As a
Bhatt.
martyr.
If you do Bhai Rajinder.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what they do.
Puneet Sahani, we will have to leave it there. I'd like to thank you really so much for sharing your views with us on the Newsmakers. Greatly appreciated.
I shared facts, not views.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's broaden out the discussion now. And joining me from New Delhi is Raman Malik. He's a spokesperson for the ruling BJP. Gurcharan Singh joins us from London. He's a member of the Dal Khalsa UK, an organization advocating for the right to self-determination for Khalistan. And in Tamil Nadu is Ajai Shukla. He's a journalist and retired colonel with the Indian Army. Thanks all so much for being with us. Gurcharan, I'll actually just begin with you and let you respond to the comments that you heard in our preceding interview from Puneet Singh. What do you make of his stance, completely contrarian to yours, on the Sikh community and where Khalistan should or should not exist?
I think as far as when we talk about the Indian Union, we have to realize the mainstream of political ideology in that union has been Hindutva from day one. Not a day has existed where Hindutva has not been at the mainstream of Indian politics. And the fundamentals of Hindutva remains the slavery of the caste system. And Sikhism rejects the caste system and this fanaticism of Hindutva. And we have seen what Hindutva physically manifests itself into. We have seen that. So as Dal Khalsa, I represent both our offices in Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. And we have seen fascism and ethnic cleansing taking place in both of those regions and entirely in India. And so only solution to genocide is a right to self-determination. And as far as our historic contents is concerned, Punjab was an independent country till 1850, before the British finally managed to take over Punjab with the help of same Hindutva
Okay,
fanatics.
quickly, I do have to ask you, though, I mean, you cite the caste system and the structure that directly discriminates against the Sikh community. There are many other OBCs, as they're called, that could claim the same kind of discrimination. Why would just the Sikhs deserve to have an independent homeland while others would not?
I think as far as the union structure is concerned, people have a right to self-determination all over the union, not just Punjab or the states we advocate for Khalistan. The issue with the caste system is because of the makeup of the Indian constitution, it does not, it simply says Sikhism doesn't exist. If you look at it, the infrastructure, even a marriage of a Sikh is done under a Hindu Marriage Act. From birth to your death, Hinduism, a fanatic form of this fascism, is forced onto us. Caste-based slavery is forced onto us, and we reject this fascism. When we are talking about the caste system, this so-called premier, Narendra Modi, he stood up in the parliament and referred to protesters, the farming protesters, as parasites. And that ideology is core of Hindutva. It does not see human beings as human beings. It sees merely a fascist elite who rule over parasites. And this is part of their
Okay.
ideology. And this ideology has no place in modern society. Caste system has to be eradicated.
Understood. Okay, Raman Malik, I did see you snickering at one point. Tell me why.
Apparently, Gurcharan does not understand that he is not somebody who is somebody in a position to describe Sikhi in toto to me, because I personally, not just the Sanatan Dharma that I follow, but I get up in the morning at around 2 o'clock and start with my parts of Gurbani. I do about 5 hours of Path and Kirtan every day in the morning. So he is in no position to tell me about Gurbani. He is in no position to tell me about Sikhi. All these people who have left India and ran away, they are not part of the Sikhi. Sikhi does not tell you to leave your motherland and go. It tells you to be and to serve your motherland, number one. Number two, these guys have a problem. The problem is misinformation. There is no caste system as such. There was a caste system which came into being at a certain point in time, where the people who were in power at that time started doing all of these things, what majorly the Jat Sikhs are doing today with the Sikhi, the controlling of SGPC and all. They're going on to the same path. Must be Sikhs, the
Okay.
Ramgarhias, the others. There are a lot of things that can be spoken about. So that is one part of it.
Okay.
Are we talking about Sikhi? Are we or Khalistan, a desire of Khalistan? If we talk about Khalistan, he must understand that the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, Kalgi Wale Badshah, he was born in Patna.
All
That
right.
is the
I
capital of
don't want to
Bihar.
get too far
So
into
you want to go,
the religious
you
or
make
historical
everything. Listen,
justification
just
because it won't make sense to an
5 more
audience
seconds.
outside of
Five
the
more
immediate
seconds.
area.
I
Five
think
more
that
seconds.
that kind of embodies
If
the
you want
I
to
think
make
that embodies the
Khalistan, let's make
problem.
the entire country Khalistan, yaar.
Okay.
क्या फर्क
I
पैदा
think
है?
Let me get to Ajay, because I just want to get an outside observer's opinion if I can. I mean, you're still in India, obviously, but do you think in total, given what the Sikh separatist movement is, what Amritpal Singh has said, has the government been responding appropriately to what they see as this separatist threat?
No, I don't believe the government has been responding appropriately, but not for the reasons that your guests who spoke before me put forward. The problem is that Sikhs are suffering multiple crises. These are social crises which have to do with a population that is largely ravaged by drug and substance abuse. There are evangelist sects that are flourishing and which are coming into direct conflict with sects like the SGPC, with sort of sects that are recruiting Sikh youth and students who are sort of they're very seriously crisis-ridden as far as their own religion goes. The religious sects in Punjab go hand in hand with the caste system, where you have the dominant Jat Sikh farmer community, which numbers 20% of the population. They have sort of been dethroned, I should use the word advisedly, from their strong political position. And then you have these 33% so-called lower castes. I don't hold with that description, but they are called lower castes, who are played for votes by political parties across the counter, including by Raman Malik's BJP. So, in the circumstances, the political demand for Khalistan, which is incidentally backed and fueled by Pakistan, is not at the top of everyone's minds. There are these multiple other crises that are there which need to be addressed.
Among those other crises, you mentioned the drug abuse epidemic that the Sikhs, Amritpal Singh, directly blames on the government. Ajay, I just want to ask you quickly, is
please don't forget the conversion part.
1 second, please. Is it fair? Is there an issue? Is the government perpetrating this drug abuse and substance abuse epidemic in the Sikh community? Is there element of truth to that, or are they looking for a scapegoat?
I would say they're looking for a scapegoat. The Sikhs are a very proud farming community. They have their traditions, they have their strong religious loyalties, and they are not going to get sort of taken in by some political gimmick which is trying to get them all into drugs. There is a drug problem, but that problem has to do with the fact that the Sikhs, who are all landowners, have largely sold their land. They are now they have a lot of money, but they don't have anything to occupy themselves with. They're no longer farming in many cases, and they're ripe fodder for these people who are these evangelist communities that are coming up and trying to recruit them. So you've got a very sad situation where a large number of political parties are taking advantage of this situation that exists in Punjab, and it's something that I would say I'm sort of very scared at the thought of what lies ahead.
That's not encouraging to hear, obviously. Gurcharan, I'll come back to you. Do you expect violence then to ensue? Because let's be honest, you're probably not going to get, not probably, you won't get an independent state of Khalistan. The Indian government, and the majority, I feel it's very safe to say, of Indian people would never allow that to happen. So what is the alternative? Are you looking for points of negotiation here to find some kind of compromise to improve the state of your Sikh community?
Yeah, as far as the question of Khalistan is concerned, one thing people have to understand: the only solution to when a nation faces genocide is self-determination. The reason self-determination was brought in is for conflict resolution, and that is the only logical conclusion to this conflict. As far as both of our panelists are concerned, I think we see both of them really looking down. You see the way the BJP guy makes his comments, and this so-called paper general from the Indian army, they always look down on us. They look down on us. They think we are somehow low. They're somehow better than us. This is the fundamental problem. And we had the BJP guy teaching me Sikhism. Now this is the problem. They, as a government, they think they will define us. They will define us. They will tell us who we are and what we need to be. This is the attitude, and this attitude is fascism, and this is where it leads to. And as far as the Indian army is concerned, let me make it absolute clear. You know, the top Indian leadership, because my family comes from the Indian army. Yeah, generations of the Indian army. These so-called Indian generals, they were running away from the battlefield. They left their offices and ran away while our forefathers were fighting on the border. They were always ill from stomach bugs. They drank shampoo and ran away from the front line. And this so-called BJP teaching us Sikhism, you know, your leadership was hiding. Your leadership was hiding in Punjab under the emergency. So before you teach us about anything, just remember your history. Modi put a turban on and was hiding under the table in Punjab. That is the reality of you people. And this so-called Indian army,
I need to give Raman
tigers.
Raman 1 minute, please. Go ahead, your response.
Okay, so first and foremost is one needs to understand that there is a big dimension to things which has to be understood. Those people who've already renounced India and gone, they have no right to be talking about anything pertaining to India because that is not their motherland anymore. If they think that this is their motherland, they should come here, sit down here and do the discussions which are required to understand where the fault lies, number one. Number two, Prime Minister Modi has been the person who has made the maximum efforts to bring down the blacklist of people who could not come back to India post the 84 genocide, massacre, human, it is a human carnage that happened in 84. Nobody, I will not be a person who can ever forget it because I've seen that. And I hate those people who did it. at the same point, one must also understand.
No, there's another thing. If you think it was genocide, listen. If you think it was genocide, you have been in government. You have been in government. Listen, you have been in government for more than 10 years. More than 10 years. Who's going to punish them? Who's going to punish them? Listen,
Gentlemen, unfortunately, we can't hear either of you at this point, and that actually is all the time we have. So, unfortunately, for this edition of the Newsmakers, and I need to apologize to Ajai for not being able to come back to you for final thoughts. But I really would like to thank all three of my panelists so much for being with us. Such are the constraints of television, but thank you again, and our viewers, of course, for being with us as well. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter, and do be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Andrea Sankey, and we will see you next time.